morning and welcome back. This is World Talks here on TVP World, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. Vladimir Putin has suggested placing Ukraine under a form of temporary administration to oversee new elections, a proposal the US rejected. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia accuse each other of attacking a key energy facility, and Italian Prime Minister voices doubts over plan for European reassurance force in Ukraine. To discuss all of these topics, I have Petras Auštrevičius, former Lithuanian MEP, joining me here right now. Good morning, sir. Delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Very good morning. Pleasure of mine.
So let's start with Europe, the reassurance forces and Giorgia Meloni criticism of this idea. What's your take on all that?
Well, I don't know, what kind of reassurances we can speak about in real terms, because I don't see any background or real situation developing towards this. So that's why, there are many talks which are very general, I have to admit, for the time of being. There have been some proposals about the boots on the ground, then kind of the air shield and so on and so forth. And I don't think the West has any final idea how it looked like in case of Ukraine. And of course, as long as the fighting is on, I don't see any readiness, from the West side, to come up with this kind of a decision. So that's why it's a stage of discussion, and we might hear different opinions still for time to go.
And don't you think that these general discussions are somewhat detrimental to how the EU is being perceived? Because, for instance, Steve Witkoff, U.S. President's special envoy, called the idea of the coalition of the willing simplistic and a posture and a pose. So, again, stressing that the U.S. has quite little regard, for the EU and its efforts. So, do you see a way of trying to overcome that, perhaps?
Well, I think it's still very early stage. Probably too early stage. To describe any final decision or kind of a solution. Speaking about framework solution, a number of those willing. Who knows? How many countries might be ready? To send troops and, most importantly, needed equipment. It's not just about troops. It's not just about infantry. So we have to be serious about defending, Ukraine, or having the force to respond if anything happens. So that's why I think from both sides, from the US and EU side, I hear a lot of talks, a lot of political debate about this, and no yet any solution. And in fact, the West is weakening itself if it splits, transatlantically speaking, and shows on each other, asking, you go first, and you do something, and then we will follow. I don't see it going into the right way.
But if we zoom on at the Paris summit, what are some of the key takeaways from this gathering? Sorry, sir, you probably did not hear me. I just wanted to ask you, if we, zoomed in on what happened in Paris, what are some of the key takeaways from the summit?
Well, again, we see, I think, needed political initiative taken by the French side. And looks like, there are only two states which are able and willing, to show and demonstrate some political initiative. That's France and UK. But again, at this stage, probably we should make a general conclusion that this is still a very initial stage for making any commitments, because any group of willing will be based on real commitments, not just political assurances or readiness. It's a military operation after all, so that's why I think it will take some time yet to come with the final shape, or to see something really, emerging in real terms. But, well, frankly, I appreciate those political efforts, to come up. But, still a way to go.
Mm-hmm. And is there a way to make some of, what is being established sort of hold? Because, now I'm referring to the talks in Saudi Arabia, and now, of course, we have the Suja incident, right, with Russians accusing the Ukrainians accusing the Russians of damaging this key gas transit point. And I just have a quote from Dmitry Peskov here, who says that he reserves the right, in case the Kyiv regime does not comply with this moratorium, of course, not to comply with it either. So there's always going to be something that could be potentially a reason not to keep one's end, right? Of the deal, of the bargain.
Well, frankly, I'm not inclined, to listen and to trust the Russian side. Whoever, is speaking on behalf of the Russian Federation. They proved many times. They speaking A and doing B. So that's why I don't believe Russians are serious on keeping the moratorium. If they came out, with this proposal, firstly, they should demonstrate and implement a goodwill and really commitment not to attack. Now we hear from the Ukrainian side many examples of breaching this kind of the proposal, which initially came from the Russian side. So that's why, as usually with Russians, the principle trust but verify probably 100 times. It's true. And just tonight, the Russian drones attacked once again Dnipro city. The civil, not military, kind of the infrastructure. 4 people are killed. So I don't see any, really will from the Russian side to be serious on peace negotiations.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this is because the Russians feel that they have an upper hand right now? Of course, we've heard Vladimir Putin come out and talk about this temporary government, right? Forming of this government in Ukraine. That's one thing. But he also managed to. He said that perhaps the Russian troops will, here in quote, finish them off. He was talking about the Ukrainian forces. So do you think that this stance stems from his, he's feeling overconfident, perhaps?
Exactly. And why is that? Because the collective West is still too weak, divided, and Russia controls time. So that's my take. I don't see any really change in the Russian behavior. I don't see any strategy change from the Russian side, not at all. And if we, wrongly believe that Russians are, looking for kind of the accommodation, just judging from the negotiators level. They sent to Saudi Arabia recently kind of a group of pensioners. Not really with the great positions and so on. They simply take time. They come up with many is absolutely unreasonable solutions, like recently about the UN being in charge of Ukraine and so on and so forth. That's a kind of dragging feet. It's a well-known common Russian strategy. And as long as the West, collective West, will follow Russian way of negotiations, we will achieve nothing, and we will make Ukraine even weaker.
Mm-hmm. They also sent an FSB agent, which raised some eyebrows. But let's turn to Ukraine for a moment. The minerals deal, the now expanded minerals deal. The Ukrainian president says that he needs more time to familiarize himself with the contents of this deal. What are your thoughts on this?
When I follow all those stories, kind of the conclusion comes to my mind. The West, in fact, the United States has kind of the economic interest, and Russians have geostrategic interest. And I think this is a trap. This is a self-deceiving and self-destructive strategy for United States. That deal might make some people probably richer. I don't know about the real value of that deal, As long as there is no ceasefire, nothing can go forward in real terms. But if to believe those initial remarks and assessments from the updated deal, well, it doesn't look serious. You can't keep your partner so down as Ukraine, only demanding and imposing your conditions, not just really treating Ukraine as a sovereign state in this regard. Because Ukraine, if to believe for very last draft, is given nothing, in fact, and must comply with too much, to my mind, in this regard.
Mm-hmm. And so what is the sentiment in Lithuania? Because, of course, I'm based here in Poland, but Lithuania is also on the eastern flank. So with all of this happening, with these meetings, the Paris summit, what is the sentiment in Lithuania?
Well, we indefinitely closely following the development of the situation. As you know, Lithuania and Poland, we have common understanding, and thanks God, we are realistically minded because we have borders with the aggressor states, with the accomplices like Belarus, and we don't expect any change for better in those two countries. So that's why we are improving and we are strengthening our defense capacity. We are enlarging our bilateral and regional cooperation. By the way, in the Baltic Sea region, we have indeed committed and good partners with the common understanding. I'm looking forward for something more to come in this regard, involving Nordics, Baltics, Poland, Germany, Norway. So we are quite a power, and things might change even for worse, because, as I said previously, I don't see any goodwill from the Russian side, and they will try to provoke, to use hybrid threats or provocations. So that's why we have to be ready. We have to increase our defense capacity and stay politically stable.
Right, and could we zoom in on that defense capacity with the recent pan-EU efforts with the Rearm Europe program and others? So what is Lithuania doing? Could you give us some examples of what Lithuania is doing as a country?
Well, we have a political decision made to increase spending over 5%. I think it's doable. That's why we are, in principle, interested in having certain EU support from this Rearm program. This is nothing new for us. We made that commitment already long ago. We are not questioning, the need to increase defense spending. And we are kind of systematically increasing defense capacity, acquiring more weapons from both US, European, as well as other like-minded countries. And indeed, we are developing our own defense industries here in Lithuania, in particular, taking into account new techniques, new warfare as using drones, unmanned flying objects, and so on and so forth. So that's why even departure from Dublin Convention, as well as our joint intention to leave Ottawa Convention, I think it's a clear demonstration. We are not just sitting and waiting for something to happen, but we're getting ready for any our acts.
Petras Auštrevičius, thank you so much for being here this morning. Much appreciated.
Pleasure mine.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TV World.